Hey friends, Amanda here, Bare Bones Living, welcome back. And today I am in my garden and I'm trying to get a little bit of gardening done. I don't always have a whole lot of time to get into the garden and do things and direct sow things, and I am running out of time to plant peas. It is the last day of April and it's getting to that point where it's going to be too hot for those plants in my area to flourish. And so I really wanted to get out here and get some peas planted. And while I'm out here, I also wanted to get some beans started because I wasn't really sure how my boys were going to like having canned green beans, and they've absolutely loved them. So I only canned maybe a dozen jars, pint jars of green beans this past year, and so I plan on succession sowing beans this year so that I can put up a lot more, because if they're gonna eat it, I'm gonna grow it, right? And I'm gonna can as much as I possibly can. So in between my littles going down for a nap and me having to pick up my son, from my oldest, from the bus stop, I try to get out in the garden and do as much as possible. I would love to have my boys in the garden with me, but they are younger and my garden is still a disaster. And it has been raining a lot lately, so things have grown up a lot, and it's also very mushy. So it's better to just leave them inside and take advantage of when they are in bed to come out and get whatever I need done, so that I'm not always looking over my shoulder and making sure they're not getting into anything that they're not supposed to. It's just one of those balancing acts that I have to do. But I thought while I was in here, I would also give you guys a little update on how my garden is looking. You can see the horrid mess behind me. That's where my onions are planted. Some of my onions are doing really awesome. Some of them are struggling because of the massive amount of weeds due to this rain that we've gotten. And then I was also putting down a bunch of mulch by my raised beds, so that's what I want to show you right now. So this side of my garden, I have 4 raised beds that I built in the beginning of the year last year, and they were all weeded, and this was all overtaken by grass. So I have a friend who is more in city limits, and she has an arborist who will drop wood chips at her place. So I have been driving, the 20 minutes to her house to get truckloads of wood chips, and I've been collecting cardboard boxes, which has been filling up our shed and driving my husband crazy. So I've finally covered all of the garden beds, the surrounding area around the garden beds, with cardboard and wood chips, which I am so thrilled that I did. This will hopefully, obviously I stopped right at the garden beds. I have a lot more that I want to just continue this, but I asked her if I could come by actually today, and she said she was waiting for another load from the arborist, so I have to pump the brakes and wait on that. But this section was so full of grass that every time I would come, because this is where I grow all my tomatoes, and I hated the feeling of things crawling on me and it was just grass. you know, but I never knew, was it grass or was it, you know, a bug or something. So this is all full all the way down. And then in this bed, this big, beautiful bushing thing is a fennel, or a couple of fennel, I believe, actually. I don't particularly care for fennel. This I did not grow for us to eat. This I grew for butterflies and their larvae, or their babies, to come and eat off of. Last year I had probably, I don't know, 30 caterpillars on here. The swallowtails, love them. And I am more than happy to provide that to them because they will lay their eggs on that and then the babies will eat it, and I'm cool with that. And then this beautiful thing here is my thyme, and it's going bonkers with these beautiful little purple flowers. So happy to see that. And so happy to see it flourishing. I mean, last year was the first year that I planted any of my herbs, so that fennel grew back by itself. I never pulled it out because, again, I did it for the pollinators. I didn't take this out, but I did harvest some, and it is glorious. And I'm happy to see that this overwintered well and is jamming. One of my nasturtiums, I think this is the only nasturtium I've seen come back. I put nasturtiums at these poles on, I think I put one in every bed, and this is the only one I saw. Over here, I'm struggling with ants, and it's a real bummer. These ants started over here last year, and they pretty much took over 2 of my tomato plants, and then they moved over here, and I used these Toro liquid ant baits, and it didn't really work. And I've done it twice, and I think if I pick this up, they're all gonna be, yep. So not really happy with that. I'm gonna try sprinkling some cinnamon on and see if that gets them away, but 2 ant baits, I would have thought that they would have gone by now. But alas, they are thriving. Then I have some parsley that's jamming. Obviously I have quite a bit of weeds that I have to pull out, but I did top dress every bed in each of my tires. I have 4 tires along my garden. That one is kind of blocked by fences that was one of the reasons why I didn't have my boys in here, because those panels were laying on the ground and like a tripping hazard and stuff like that. And my littlest one is still not super steady on his feet. So I top dressed everything with mushroom compost. I have a big old pile of it still because I got lots of plans for it, but no time to execute it. But I have parsley and sage in here, and the sage is jamming, about to bloom. I did find a horseshoe in my mushroom compost. Not sure how I feel about that, but does that mean that I'm going to have a good luck gardening year if I find a horseshoe in my garden or in my compost? I don't know. In these tires, I have, these are all mints. That's a chocolate mint. This is strawberry mint. And that's peppermint. And then that one that's being blocked by the cattle panels is lemon balm. Then in here, this is my rosemary, which is supposed to be hardy, and I thought it was gonna come back jamming, but this is all I'm seeing here. I'm hoping that it starts to fill out. I don't know if it's dead or not. This tells me it's not dead, but it's not. I would have thought that it would have been more full of leaves, or, you know, rosemary leaves. So I haven't been able to harvest any rosemary, but I did plant in here some Blue Lake pole beans, and I planted them at the 4 T-posts so that they can climb that, and hopefully they won't be too disruptive to my tomatoes when I put them on here. I'm doing the beans first so that they can have a chance to climb a little bit before I put in the tomatoes. So I got 4 Blue Lake pole beans, and then on this side, this whole length here between this irrigation and the wall here, I planted Royal Burgundy beans all the way down. And then in this last bed, I again put Blue Lake pole beans at the 2 T-posts. And then the rest of these I planted a while back. And these are all carrots, different varieties of carrots. I have like Bolero, this whole side. I did square foot gardening, one of those squares. And I planted pelletized Bolero carrot seeds. Not super thrilled with the germination there. But hopefully I'll get a good couple dozen Bolero carrots. And then this kind of cluster of things, I have Nantes and Danvers, and I can't remember exactly. It was a plethora of the last bits of a lot of carrots that I had left. So obviously these are going to be much smaller because they're so close together. I didn't really thin them out, but at least I got them in, and we'll get what we get. And then this chive, it's funny because I had a chive in Illinois that I brought with me to Tennessee in a grow bag, and I had that one for like 5 years. And then I moved it here to Tennessee, and it was doing fine in the grow bag at my dad's house. And then I got it here and transplanted it into my garden bed when I finally made the garden bed, and that seemed to kill it. So we had no fresh chives last year. And then I went and I bought a chive plant because my chive seeds, I've never gotten chive seeds to germinate. And so I had to go buy a chive, and I planted it over there, and it also died. And then this year, this is where I planted the original OG Illinois chive. And apparently some of the seeds lived on, and it's alive. It's coming back. So we will have fresh chives this year. I'm so excited. Everyone says it's so easy to grow chives, and it usually is, but last year was just not our year for chives apparently. And then over in this mess that I have to come through and weed, I planted, I don't know if you can see the pink, the green, and then there's a yellow one that's oh yeah, pink, yellow, and green. There we go. Those are peas, and I planted them here so that they have the irrigation. I planted them on either side of each strip of irrigation. so that they would get the irrigation, but then they can climb this chicken wire as their trellis. And then in there I found some scrawny onions. There's one there. There's a bigger one here. And then there's, you know, one there and one there. So I need to come through. I went through back there. You can see a lot more. Those are growing better and easier to identify because I did weed them, but then I ran out of time. But this whole center area here is just covered in weeds. So it really needs some dire help. And I was planning on coming through with some hay or with some straw as ground cover, but I ran out because we used it all for our pigs. And then I was waiting for a tax exemption number before I went and purchased a bunch of stuff. And so I haven't gone and gotten the straw yet, but that is definitely on my list of things to do. I'm just looking out here. I can see more onions. I can identify more onions that are just like struggling for nutrition. Ooh, I can talk. So they're pretty scrawny in there. And once I get those weeds out and some straw down, I'm sure they're going to flourish. And I know that there are a lot of people out there that would say it's better just to do it right the first time and do all the weeding and all the mulching and running the irrigation all at the same time and just do it right the first time and get it over with. But that's not always possible for people, for everyone. And that is definitely the case for me. As I mentioned, I don't always have loads of time to spend in my garden, so anytime I can get out there to get something accomplished, I take that opportunity and I do the one thing that I can do. And then it does end up to be more work a lot of the time, because by the time I get back to it, those weeds will come back and things like that. But it is just the time in life that I am in the situation that I have currently. So I understand that a lot of that is doing double work, but it just is what it is, and I'm okay with that. So I didn't get all the things that I wanted done, but I did get some of them done, and I'm taking that as a win for me. So I hope you took something away from that. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you on the next one. Thank you guys for stopping by today and joining in on our journey here at Bare Bones Living. We'll catch you on the next one.